do it.
Okay, so that's probably really offensive to half of our listening audience because Paul's not Australian.
Okay, I'll take that part out too.
If he was, that would be even more offensive. He's not even English; he's Scottish. So I mean, it's like.
Well, thank you, lads. I appreciate that.
Isn't that still British though? Is that how I understand it?
Excuse me.
Yes, yeah,
it is technically.
Right.
But we're not a podcast about the inner workings of the political landscape of the United Kingdom. So.
SNAFU. Situation normal. All fouled up. This is SNAFU.
Aloha, everybody. This is the SNAFU podcast. We are on episode 44, and I'm your guest, Paul Walker here, the Warlord Bolt Action Ambassador, and I'm here with Pat and Dale.
And that's Paul.
It is Paul, the Warlord Ambassador.
Thanks for joining us.
Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much of a legend, maybe.
Yeah, legends can go both ways, actually.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if that's a backhanded compliment, chaps.
No, I think it's a good one.
Was that about never meeting your idols or something to that effect, I think is out there?
Now you're just bigging me up, Pat.
Well, now keep in mind that, Jeff and I did play you last year at Adepticon, and you did win, so...
Oh, but you let me win.
You ran out of time when you were cleaning your clock, and you know it.
Well, I know. I mean, you were being kind to Alan as well.
It doesn't sound like Pat letting someone win, so...
That's not in my nature.
So we've actually...
To be honest...
We've asked Paul to join us tonight so that we can kind of talk a little bit about, first of all, what's going on with him and what it means to be the ambassador. In addition to our involvement with the tournament coming up that he is intimately involved in, that we're gonna jump into as well. But first of all, obviously you'll notice that we're missing Rick and Jeff this evening. Sorry guys, we miss you. Hopefully they'll be signing on a little bit later on, but with the timing and schedules and things like that, sometimes it just doesn't work out entirely. But Paul was kind enough to join us, and thanks so much for that, Paul.
Well, it's a pleasure to be invited on, and I know I caused one or two technical problems for you guys when I'm out here on the island, so thank you for putting up with me.
Yeah, I think it's our pleasure. So when you say the island...
Those of you listening at home, every time Paul says the island, you should probably take a drink.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I think that's a pretty good drinking game there for you.
Or anything, or a 1 or 2 degree separation from the island. So, like an Aloha, or from
the episode that keeps on giving.
So, I'm ready to go.
You'll get to the end of it, and you won't remember it, and you'll just have to listen to it again.
That's one way to get the figures up.
So, and by the island, we don't think you mean somewhere in the United Kingdom, right?
No, for people that know me, I'm normally based in Scotland, and I have moved out to Bermuda for a year or two, hopefully. So when I say the island, I mean Bermuda.
Wow.
Top of the triangle. I may disappear. You'll know where I've gone.
Right.
That doesn't seem like a common path to follow. How do you land in Bermuda exactly?
I followed my good lady. We kind of closed our business, decided to retire, and then she was offered a job out here on the islands, and I came with her. So I'm a house husband. I'm busy poisoning her at every lunchtime and dinner time. So. Yeah.
All right. Have you found that you're fixing things differently as far as food goes from Bermuda, or are you able to keep the same kind of things?
No, Bermuda's you can get the same stuff, but Bermuda is very expensive. So
okay.
It's very careful shopping to be done.
Can you get Twinkies?
You can get Twinkies, but then I couldn't get those back home either. They sell. It's 60% British, 40% American.
All right. That's a pretty good mix, I think.
So it works, but yeah, it's expensive on the island.
Sure. All right. So now that you're kind of settled in, and congratulations, by the way, I think that would be pretty exciting. My wife, I think she'd love it if I could say that we were in Bermuda. So we usually kick these things off with hobby updates. So as the ambassador, I'm expecting, you've got to have something out there that you're excited about, you're working on.
Sounds like you're retired.
I've got a lot I'm excited about. At the moment, I'm working on a project with Craig Brown from the Home Guard podcast, some of you may know.
Sure. And
I'm working on a Russian army for the rolling into Berlin. Craig is working on his beleaguered defenders. We're going to have a big game down at Warlord, see if we can get that filmed once we have our forces done. So I'm working on the Soviets at the moment. Busy sticking little red bricks on bases and cobblestones and that type of thing.
Okay.
And I also do one or two models from another game system that we can't mention out here on the island. Take a sip, everybody. Most of them play another very well-known game rather than one I play, so I've given up a little bit and I've done a few of those models, but I've
that
now
Gates of Antares, or is that what's the new one?
From another manufacturer.
Must be it. Oh, there's another manufacturer. Interesting.
There is another manufacturer in Nottingham, believe it or not.
Yes. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we all know.
Yeah, we're talking about 40k. How many?
I know this isn't a 40k podcast, but next week they're gonna announce something that I'm particularly excited about. So
yeah. Anyway, moving on swiftly. What are you guys up to?
Well, we're actually, I think we're gonna save our hobby updates, but I can give a brief one. I'm still prepping for the WTC.
Secrets. Give those secrets.
I've just been playing a lot, actually. I think I've gotten 8 games in the last 3 weeks. So, I'm just trying to, unlike Pat, who can master his list in 5 games, I think it's going to take me like closer to 32. So,
yeah.
And then
I listened to the last podcast as well. I'm like, it took me about 30 odd goes to learn how to use that Dutch army of mine. But anyway.
Yeah. So, but I'm looking forward to
the
hear
British
Pat.
are the British, so we just plug and play.
Oh dear! But
when in doubt, Gurkha.
Yeah, I'm just playing. I'm just playing a lot. So I don't know, Pat. What do you got? A quick little update outside of official?
So first of all, Paul, thanks for the extension. I've changed my list 4 times since then. And that's not even funny. Wait till you hear Rick. He's had the same thing. He hasn't changed armies again though. But and so I had some reinforcements that arrived today. So I'll be putting them together quite hastily this weekend, and the lists are going to have to be in as we record here. We got about 4 days to put them in.
Yeah, I think it was midnight Saturday. It'll be after this podcast goes out, obviously. But
yeah, so we've got like 3 days. So,
which meantime, who knows? Depending how quickly we chop through this, we might get it out at the deadline. But obviously, getting my list done will be a priority over editing. But we'll see. And I'm working on my display board now that I have the base of my army figured out. And also, just because I can't have just 1 or 2 projects, I'm also working on a Pacific board for just general purposes of having terrain. A map identical to the one that Jeff has, where the island is finally on the short end. Thank you for someone figuring that out. And got some fortifications. I actually picked up some aquarium rocks because rocks are rocks and these look neat and tropical. So we'll be doing some of that kind of stuff. So that's what I got going as of now. I forget what I had in the last podcast, but I will definitely have, by the time we do the next one, I will, because the majority of my WTC list is also in my Adepticon list. So kind of forcing me to get stuff done by the end of this month. Yikes.
Yep, and we have list submission for Adepticon 1 week, I believe, after WTC. So
Right, it's like 8 days out of the event or something.
yeah, so I'll have to be on top of that. But yeah, I mean,
that one's run by Jay Casper, which is one of Russell's Raiders. Do you know him, Paul?
Yeah, I know Jay. And what's that? That's the Nationals he's running, isn't it?
it is. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's one of 5 events that Warlord is putting on for Bolt Action there. So
Yeah,
They
well, I
got
think
some-
the Chicago guys are
They got-
running at least a couple of them, isn't they?
mm-hmm. Yep. So there's a combat patrol. Andrew is running, and I think they've also
Doubles.
got the doubles event.
Yep. Andrew
And then
and
Nationals.
Paul Stewart.
Yep. And then there's
Is there a
Bolt
tank
Action
battle or
Korea-
something?
Bolt Action Korea event, if I'm not mistaken. And I think there's some Blood Red Skies stuff planned. I'm trying to remember what the last Bolt Action event might
There
be.
is. So no, there's also Korea. There's a
Mhm.
couple of Stalingrad things going on. If you watch John Russell on Facebook
That's what it
Live
was.
on Wednesday
The
morning,
Stalingrad.
he's-
Yep, Stalingrad event.
he's building a Hornet for something with Blood Red Skies. There's also that
Yeah, but it's
snippet,
a big
Midway.
carrier, isn't it?
and there's also
the
that
big
snippet
aircraft
that was
carrier.
released
Yeah.
in the last week with that victory at sea. Because I had almost saved some money, and so now they're going to give me another reason to hand it over.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there. It sounds like the Warlord booth will be twice the size that it was last year in the vendor hall. So yeah, a lot happening for Adepticon, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. But I mean, if you're listening to this before Adepticon, you're going to be there. Just, please stop in and say hello. Paul, I'm a little bit disappointed that it doesn't sound like you're going to be able to make it out this year.
I'm very disappointed myself.
I was looking forward to sitting down and going deep diving into WTC. So maybe we'll have to do that here tonight before, since we're not going to be able to corner you.
I'm waiting for the interrogation.
It won't be that bad. I mean, the last thing we want to do is create any kind of scenario where, this is going out to everybody, but because lists are still not due.
Yeah.
We certainly don't want any information that would make us change our list that wouldn't be immediately available to anybody else that's going to be attending. So
I wouldn't give it to you anyway.
I know, but I just want to make sure that we're really careful about that. So sometimes
try and make me talk. Make me talk.
All right, we'll see. Before we
Name,
go
rank,
into
serial
Island.
number.
yeah, before we get to that, from the sense that I get, and we've never actually met. I didn't make it to Adepticon last year. It sounds like you've been involved in gaming generally for possibly a significant amount of time. So how did you get started in all of this? What's your story there?
Well, I've not been in gaming for all that long. You guys have probably been gaming a lot longer than me.
Oh, all right.
I got into gaming because my boys and took them to Games Workshop when they were youngsters, and they got into the gaming, and I got into the painting because they didn't like painting. And we went to a local club where we stay when we're in Scotland, in Dunfermline. It's a fairly large club. And in fact, I spent about 2 years just watching my kids play. And then eventually I was like, will somebody play me at this? And so I started playing games, and then, I can't even remember how long it was ago now, but probably about 8 years ago, one of the guys, Brian there, got into Bolt Action. I think Bolt Action had maybe been out for about a year at the time, so my dates might be a little bit incorrect. And I got into Bolt Action, and that's really the story. So I've only been in gaming really for about 10, 11 years.
Oh, all right. So that is a slightly different route. I guess I took the path that your kids took. I got started when I was in college when I got plugged in. And I think, Pat, that may not Well, generally, Pat was just a gamer. You were a nerd. D&D, weren't you, Pat?
Yeah, that was a D&D guy. And I think, looks like Rick has popped in. Rick, can you hear us? You in there?
Am I? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
Hey.
Hello, Rick.
Hi.
Welcome to the party.
Hey.
Welcome, Rick.
Yeah, sorry. My
Rick,
hobby
we're
update
doing
is
Paul,
taking care
Paul,
of
this
my
is
phone.
Rick.
Aloha, Rick. I'm waving even though you can't see it.
It's the radio I get.
Yeah.
Video.
All right, so Games Workshop started off, and then you started playing Bolt Action. So that probably was in first edition then, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so what was your first Bolt Action? Bolt Action?
Appropriate word.
You were right the first time, right? Yeah.
What was your
first
first
army
army?
First army was an American army.
Okay.
That's my first army.
So were you a collector? You just collected what you thought was cool, or did you go more the historical route, or what was that first approach for you?
Yeah, I got into it because, why did I choose Americans? I think I just liked the idea of the Americans, and I had some lying about, and I just painted them and got playing with them, and then I have probably had most, if not all, of the armies at some stage or other. And with painting, if I paint
They
up...
all make it to the island with you?
No. I'm trying to game on with very little resources, shall we say. It costs a fortune to even bring luggage or anything out here, so everything was done on a shoestring.
You're moving coconuts around the board and stuff like that?
Something like that. But the guys at Nottingham are looking after me and sending Red Cross parcels regularly.
I think those just have the Oreo cookies in them, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The tuck shop at Warlord were selling off everything for 50p, and they send me the internal emails. You know, tuck shop special offer 50p, and I'm like, thank you very much, guys. I can't get it.
Wait, that's mine. Stop selling my stuff.
Exactly. So so it was Americans I got to do first of all.
Okay. All right. So then, do you feel like, from a gaming perspective, are you more along the lines of beer and pretzels, or does the competitive side interest you, or is it just purely hobby, or where do you think you feel it, or a little bit of both, or all of them, or where do you think you land on?
It's a little bit of all of them. Most people that know me know that I like to sit on the other side of the table and have a damn good game against you and try to put up a tough a show as I can. So I really like the competitive aspect of the gaming. Mm-hmm. However, I like to have a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun when I'm doing it. Well, at least I hope other people. It's more important to me that you enjoy your game, but I still want us to have a good ding-dong, you know?
Sure.
It's the way I'm built. But from that, I've got into the history of it. So one of the armies that I play is Commando 47, and I play them on D-Day +1 at a port on Bassin, and I can name every single individual model in my army. I know who he is, when he died, did he survive, and all the rest of it. So yeah, I kind of got into the history as well.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. Awesome. So, and guys, jump in here. I mean, because otherwise I'm just going to keep on. I'm going to keep
interrogating me.
You know what? Dale, you do such a good job. I don't have to even step forward.
I think they're taking notes.
Yeah. All right. So Paul, my first exposure to you was a little over a year ago, on your warhq.co.uk. You'd done a video on YouTube where you and your partner, you went out into the field, and there was a discussion outside, and there was a discussion about effective ranges.
I remember this one, yeah.
And I watched that, and I thought it was brilliant. I'm like, holy crap, because I was kind of reading all of those things in regards to, if this was really, an M1 Garand, the effective range of this would be much farther scale-wise than just 24 inches that it's represented on the table. And you guys went out there, and you're with all the brush and the trees and the bushes and things like that, the effective range of the weapon itself may have far exceeded what was represented in the game, but you couldn't effectively choose any targets. I thought that was really good, and I enjoyed that. So
yeah, that was thing that was going about on Facebook at the time, and there was lots of posts going on about effective range, and Chris Brown, who wrote the Market Garden book, had written an article about it. And I said to, I think it was Harrison at the time, let's go and test this. And it's amazing. Unless you move, it's really difficult to see anybody.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, as we said. But anyway, guys, go back and ask if you're more interested in that. Yeah, so...
Is that why you get that hidden marker next to you at the beginning of the setup game? That makes it tougher to see?
Yes, that's how we gamed that.
Okay, yeah, good. All right.
You need a big enough dice to
Stored
hide
tomorrow,
behind.
so.
That's what it is.
Use the foam ones. Or go with the high impact. You don't want to skimp on that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Need the flamethrower.
Ooh. Don't mention flamethrowers.
Well, you need to do another video.
I think
like Tiger Fear or
flamethrower.
Yeah.
Fire off some of those shots and let's see how it really goes.
Yeah, I'll pass on that one, lads.
We're staying the Tiger Fear friendly in here for tonight. You know, we're not.
Sorry.
That wound is still festering.
Actually, I think that'd be a great.
Jeff, did you pop in?
I am indeed here.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
Hey.
Aloha, Jeff.
Look at that. The gang's all here.
Hello.
Oh, here.
There's an aloha. I got to take a drink.
Take a drink.
I do think I'm going to have to. I do think I'm going to have to make one of those like Facebook surveys, whether or not it's a tiger or not. Just like go through like 10 pictures and whether or not they're actually tigers.
Well, now did you guys listen to that last Warlord podcast where actually had Alessio was on there and he specifically basically said that the Tiger Fear was written for the Panzer IV?
You know,
they kind of made my head pop a little bit.
I think it makes sense. I mean, historically, and what
do you guys remember the story John Russell told us a couple years ago?
Was. Yeah.
Which one? He told us stories.
Well, so the guy making his hot chocolate and some green guy comes running through screaming tiger, tiger, tiger and spills his hot chocolate all over him. The guy gets pissed as hell, goes out there with a grenade launcher or something like that and shoves it in the tailpipe and blows it up and comes back and goes, that was a goddamn Panzer IV, you son of a bitch, and whatever. You know. Again, it was the vet's like, that ain't a tiger, what are you talking about? I just blew it up. The guy like apparently disabled it and got a Bronze Star or something like that, but I think you go back a couple of years, we actually mentioned it in our podcast a little more clear than that was, but that was the gist of it, is like that because the Panzer IV was always mistaken, that's what the fear was. The big actual Panzer IV, I mean, you put that on the board, yeah, that's a frightening thing. It's got like an armor 10, and what the hell am I going to do with that? So that, I found that interesting that people thinking it the other way, but then again, I don't play Germans a whole lot, and when I do, I run Panzer IIIs, so.
Well,
that's just me.
Alessio was playing a game at Warlord HQ earlier today, and he was running Germans, and he had a Puma. He wasn't
Germans. I thought Alessio played Americans.
So they were playing on the board that Warlord HQ is working on for the Stalingrad, for their Stalingrad board.
That is hilarious.
Well, I saw the post and I was going to go, I don't see a tiger here. I wonder why. But I didn't, so.
That's like permaban worthy.
No, I actually appreciated what Alessio had to say. Now I may be a bit of a fanboy, honestly, because I've been following. I wasn't a huge fan of what he did to Bretonians way back in 5th edition. I thought that was terrible. But I was playing Skaven at the time. But in any event,
isn't he responsible for dwarves too?
Empire.
Oh, I don't think so. Well, Empire. But the
who did dwarves? Someone did. I thought it was Alessio.
I don't think that was Alessio. What he, talking through the process and how he was approaching it and all those kinds of things. I thought it was good information. I appreciated it. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with the direction that they ultimately decided to go, but it's definitely worth a listen if you're kind of curious about games design and his specific approach to what he's doing. I thought it was good. So yeah, it was a good listen. Brad did a good job with it.
It was good.
And
yeah, he did.
Yeah,
and I realized I started this tangent, but we have kind of a very loose agenda tonight, but maybe we should start at one of the points. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna interject one piece because the 6th edition Dwarf Warhammer book was Gav Thorpe and Alessio. Just FYI.
I think that was more Gav than Alessio, though.
Maybe. I don't know. But I'm just saying, his name was on it.
Bolt.
Anyway, all right, let's get back to the
It's
agenda.
action. At least it's bolt action adjacent with the writer being involved.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, Paul, we left off and you're playing Americans at your club in Scotland and having a good time. So, how do you go from there to becoming the ambassador that you are? So,
good question. So I discovered that I quite like the one-on-one playing and all the rest of it. So I got into helping the club run the competitions, and from that, really kind of touches on the World Team Championships. It's embarrassing. I wanted to play for Scotland, okay? Was basically what it was. And I thought the only way I can play for Scotland is if we have internationals. So it became my drive to organise an international bolt action competition of some sort.
mm-hmm.
And so I got more into doing tournaments up home in Scotland. And I did a lot of travelling around the UK and abroad to tournaments. So I think last year, by this time last year, I had played something like 30-odd competitive games and about 60 games by the end of March, by the end of Adepticon.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm going to tournaments every sort of 2 to 3 weekends, and you get to know people.
Yeah, it's a lot of competitive play, too.
Right?
And at the same time, I'm thinking, right, my original idea was to try and get internationals at the ETC, the European Team Championships for bolt action. And just the way they work, they organise the ETC, it was never possible to give us enough time to get people there. And then I met up with Dave, and that's going to be another story we come to. But that kind of brought me to the attention, I guess, of Warlord. And when they're looking about for, it had been suggested to them that they really needed somebody who was looking after the interests of the bolt action community not on their behalf, but giving them the feedback that they need. Because one of my things with Warlord was that we don't see any red shirts at the competitions. So that was my first thing, is people need to see Warlord people at competitions. They need to know that Warlord loves the game. I felt at the time that Warlord weren't portraying the fact that they love the game. It's one of their main, their main game. It's their main seller.
Mm-hmm.
And the community wants to know that they're being loved, basically. And so...
a little bit can go a long way in that regard, so...
Yeah, so they kind of sat down, and after me moaning at them and various other people doing it, they turned around to me and said, "Look, we want you to be the ambassador." And I was like, "The ambassador? What does the ambassador do?" So between us, myself and Simon Tift, it kind of came up that this was going to be a role of I was going to kind of be the middleman between Warlord and the community, or at least some of the community. And I'm very aware that that's not just the competitive side. It's the guys who go to the club and like to go through the campaign games. And it's also the guys that just play with their best friend in their garage every weekend. And it's difficult to kind of get those guys, but I'm trying to put forward their views as well when I can find them out.
Yeah,
and then,
I think
sometimes Warlord, it's perhaps difficult for people to understand what Warlord are doing or trying to do. And sometimes I try to clear the waters, going the other way back to the community.
So I'm just kind of putting myself in your shoes. I imagine it would be difficult to kind of balance, because I would suspect that the competitive side of the community would or could potentially be asking for very different things than just our friendly club beer and pretzel gamers or games, or when it could be the same person, but competitively I might be looking for something different than I am when me and the guys are just down at Auto Break and we're running through one of Jeff's campaign games. So,
yeah, I mean, Bolt Action is, to me, it's obviously the best game ever, but it covers so many different parts of the community from my perspective, and that it can be just something you play on the dinner table, with your best pal with a few crates of beer, and you're really just rolling dice, and the game doesn't matter that much, really. Or it can be two guys that are really serious and go hammering tongs at it. But the great thing I've found with Bolt Action is the community amongst the gamers is the friendliest community I've come across to date. And there may be other communities out there, but I think the Bolt Action guys are the friendliest. I mean, even at the top end, the guys that are really serious about it, they can be fun and have a laugh as well. And they will try to help new players. And I love that about the game, and it's one of the few games where I would encourage, and we have brand new players turning up, and they can have a great day out just because the community supports them at these competitions and events, so.
Yeah,
I find that
that's good.
I find those guys even like, hey, you forgot to make this roll. Oh, wait, why don't you check that first and then do that? It just happens with players like that too. It's nice.
Which is funny that we've had so much discussion around like the pre-measure part of Tiger Fear and how people are going to exploit it. But you kind of nailed it, Paul. It's like everyone is by far the friendliest environment I've ever played in.
Oh yeah.
And I think one of the things is because the game is not constantly moving in a way where you need to have the latest unit that was brought out.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a direct criticism of a particular game. There's lots of games like that. And, because once you know what your army, you know what most of the other armies all do. So you don't get this deer in the headlights situation where a guy turns up with a unit and says, oh, did you not realize that my guy on a roll over 2+ kills your entire army?
Some of us wish that existed.
Naval observers say hello.
Yeah, right. that's not reinforced platoon worthy yet.
Well, that can wait for Bug Eater.
Right.
Don't bring them to Cork, chaps. Okay.
Yeah.
They're disallowed.
Wouldn't dream of it.
Actually, you can because they'll be disallowed and sit off the side, and you'll be out your points. So bring them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's turn the community works. No, bring a list that you're going to be able to play the whole thing up. So, because that way, that way, when you beat us, we'll be able to say that. Well, you had your whole list. So
you're playing 200 points down, and you still beat me. That's fun.
I'm still upset I can't bring my ambulance, but I guess rules are rules.
I know that was unfortunate. But, for the World Team Championships, we like to play from the book where possible. So, yeah.
It's all right.
I know.
It's refreshing.
You'll have fun anyway.
We're going to be in Ireland. We're going to be having a blast. I'm not going to lie.
Exactly. You're not going to remember the second day anyway.
Not if the Irish drink us under the table. It's possible.
They'll take much.
They'll be trying hard.
Good point. I am. Yeah. Especially after traveling, I'll be out of drinking shape. Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
I'm sure we'll be able to find a way to get you back into drinking shape pretty quickly.
Yeah, that doesn't work out very well.
We need a practice weekend for that.
Practice last weekend. It worked out okay.
No, we can do a Adepticon as another.
Oh man,
let's help everyone here.
Yeah.
Let's help everyone here. Just say island again. Go ahead, take a drink.
Island, aloha.
Oh,
I'm not even drinking tonight.
Oh, you amateurs!
No,
you and Jeff missed the part where that the lead, and we had mentioned that Paul, of course, is in Bermuda now, and so every time he says island or aloha or something island is adjacent, that everyone listening should take a drink. Just to bring you guys up to speed.
No, I'm not going to lie, because we're on our SNAFU server. I'm surprised no one has stopped in yet. Like, I get messages every time we're on here doing voice recording.
Yeah, we didn't exactly announce it, so.
Oh, I know, but someone will tell me tomorrow, hey, you guys were on last night. I guess they get notice. I don't know.
Well, our patrons know about it, so if they pop in, then they'll get an episode a little early than the rest of us. So the rest of it.
They might even get on it should they happen to pop in
So,
randomly.
is there anything else that we want to dive into before we take a break and come back with all of our trying to pry additional information out of Paul for WTC?
I'm not going to talk. You can't make me.
I have a serious question though, Paul. So, as you might know, we play some music. You know, our format is we talk a whole bunch and then we take a break about an hour and play some music. And then we talk.
I thought that was you guys playing
more.
the music and singing.
Right? And then we find some of the music to play. So, let me get a pen here and say, you know, what kind of WW2 music inspires you? So we can try and get something relevant to you for the episode.
Relevant to me for the episode.
Really put him on the spot.
You have put me right on the spot, lads. I would say
play some music and then come back and you can tell us later, and that'll be what the music was. That's the magic of podcasting.
Virulin. You can't get more World War II than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've used that one before.
It's fine.
You can use it again.
But you know what?
Play the same song twice in the same episode.
I mean, how many versions of
You guys will never let me. Jesus.
How many versions of Waltzing Matilda can we use? I mean, Jesus, Pat, come on, man.
I played 2. Good grief.
In the same episode. Come on.
The episode is about Australia. What else do they have?
It was very thematic. It was like the only Australia song, wasn't it? They probably found like 4 more.
Let's be careful. I'm sure there were others.
Oh, the only one on
Brad will
YouTube.
let us know.
I'm sorry. You're right. There absolutely are more World War II songs. They played a large part in the war.
You'll let us know what they are, I'm sure.
Yeah, send all that to Pat because he's the one that did it. So
I will set up a special email just for him.
Thanks.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
It's a lot of them. Holy cow.
Picked 2. They were the same song but different versions. I thought it was thematic. I guess I missed.
You didn't. We just like giving you crap. All right.
Well, I liked the last one. What was it? The private one. Why did they call them private?
Yeah.
Why did they call private?
Yeah, that was good.
Interesting enough,
as always,
I forget what show we were watching, but that Pistol Packin' Mama song showed up in some commercial or trailer or something, and I'm like, oh my god, are you kidding me? Wow, I just put that one in an episode.
Don't tell anyone. We might get sued or something. Sure that was an old song, Pat?
All right,
it definitely was.
Okay.
It comes across my 40s on 4 feed, so.
Okay, we're safe then. Great. All right. As always, we don't know what the music is. We'll be right back.
Hope you enjoy it.
As always. Welcome back. Hope you like the music. We're just starting over.
Never done that before.
No, we do this all the time.
Oh, dear.
All right. I don't even know where to go from here.
Thanks, thanks, Rick. It's good to be back.
Yeah, right. I feel like I've been here for like a quarter of a half episode, something like that.
It's more than me.
All right, so
for the episode.
Yeah,
So hey, we have
don't
Paul
me
with us,
questions.
who's the event organizer for the WTC, both Bolt Action and Middle Earth, correct? Paul?
Well, I'm TO for Bolt Action.
Mm-hmm.
Hello,
Okay.
can you hear me? Yeah. I'm TO for
Yeah.
the Bolt Action. We have a TO for Middle Earth, and then we've got an overall event TO who is Dave.
Okay.
There it is. That was the structure I was looking for. Thank you.
So is Dave the one that did the ping pong balls?
Yeah, that's Dave Nolan.
Dave's
and
daughter,
that was his
okay.
daughter, Saoirse. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to. So Dave is organizing both sides, and so how? I think you actually alluded to this being a long conversation. How did we get attached? Bolt Action get attached to Middle Earth?
Well, Middle Earth had been running for a few years, and Dave is a fairly unique personality who I get on very well with, but he likes to get stuff done. And he decided that he wanted Bolt Action to be at the Team Championships. So he put up a post, being Dave, that just said, I'm organising, who's interested? And I think he got quite a lot of feedback from people saying, kind of, keep your hands off, Dave. This is Paul's baby.
Oh.
And then I got a lot of messages from people, do you realise this man, Dave Nolan is doing X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, chill out, guys. It's not a problem. If he wants to do it, go with it. And in the same evening, Dave sent me a message saying, hello, Paul, you don't know me, but I'm told you're the man I need to speak to. I was like, well, that's very flattering.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dave and I hit it off fairly quickly because for whatever reason, I understand him and he seems to understand me, which is amazing to everybody else, but what the heck. And I'd spent possibly the best part of 3 to 4 years trying to pull something like that together and trying to keep everybody happy. Whereas Dave's tactics, Dave's plan on how to do this is just to go, I'm organising it, either come or don't come. And it was like, that's by far the most effective way to do it.
That's going to get it done. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about the only way to get it done.
That's the whole premise around Operation SNAFU, and thankfully people show up for it.
Pat is our Dave.
We knew at the time.
We get along with him either, but somehow we do.
And I feel sorry for all you guys then, if Pat is your Dave. I'm just saying that up. Okay.
That's great. Come on, guys.
Yeah, he is great. We I think every well-run tournament needs a Dave Pat. So
For sure.
or a Pat Dave.
Dave is good at what he does. So
Right.
that's how it kind of got started. So that was sort of this time 2 years ago. In fact, it would have been, when would it have been? It would have been about August a couple of years ago. And we ended up going to Poland for the World Team Championship last year.
And that was the first Bolt Action.
That was the
WTC
first
event,
Bolt
right?
Action one.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many teams were in the first one?
There was 12 last year and there's 12 this year. And we do have there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It's not much at all like running a Scottish Nationals, for example. There is an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see or appreciate. Well, it don't really matter whether they appreciate. They don't just realise there's an awful that goes on behind the scenes that they don't know about, especially because we're dealing with international teams. There's quite a lot of politics and the way people play things in different countries. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that Dave does, which people don't realise. There's a lot more to it to make it come about. So we get there.
Yeah.
No.
So last year was in Poland.
Yeah. in Poznan.
Okay. And now this year, we're rolling into Cork.
We're rolling into Cork this year, yeah.
Okay. So coming out of the event last year, based off of all the feedback that you likely received from the people who were committed enough to participate the first year, what did you learn, having been to many actually, competitive events yourself? I don't know if you've done anything like this previously or participated in anything like this, but were you caught off guard by anything? So
we were caught off guard by quite a lot of things. The structure of how we run things is different this year. Whereas Dave was overall TO, I went in as head referee as such. And we discovered that we reckoned it would be better if we had somebody who was in charge of the event, and then we had individual TOs for each of the, at the moment, 2 competitions that are running effectively. That would mean we would have a lot less confusion. I don't think Dave has ever TO'd as such a big competition before. And there were quite a lot of things that went wrong. The scoring was done. We're doing the scoring differently this year. There was quite a lot of problems with the scoring, and odd things were difficult. What we felt we needed was somebody who was organising. How do we get the scenery there? How do we get the tables there? Who sets up the tables? All that stuff needed to be done by somebody separately. And Dave has taken charge of that. And I've come in and I'll TO the event, and I have a referees team set up. And we've sat down and written working practices, so we all know how we should be responding to questions, etc. Okay. So we're just more organised than we were last year. The main thrust of the event is to make it fun for everybody. And in spite of the ways we could improve from last year, I think everybody had fun, which was the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my only research from last year's event was just what I heard on various podcasts. Yeah. It certainly sounded like it was a fun event for everybody that had gone. So
yeah,
it was obviously fun enough for you, Dale, to have mentioned that this was a goal that you would want to do at some point, like last year around this time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you had joined us by that point in time, but Paul had sheepishly mentioned that he had initially had an interest in like playing in an international event for the Scottish team. And I've also kind of secretly had that on my gaming bucket list. I think it would be cool to represent my country internationally. So,
and of course, ironically, having stated the reason I started doing this, because I organise all the events, I'll never ever play for Scotland. So I know. However, the guys were very nice. The Scottish team did present me with a Scottish shirt, so
Oh, there you go. That seems reasonable.
It was very kind of.
The same thing we have is that we do the Operation SNAFU. We think it sounds fun, great, and exciting. We all go, oh, we can't play in this. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, I hope everyone else has fun.
Yeah. It's interesting how we make the event we would all love to go to, but we end up not being able to actually participate in it.
Just watch.
I've threatened to quit SNAFU just to go to our own tournament. I have. I'm willing. You just let me know.
That's why I write things like that partisan scenario, so you don't want to play.
Right?
Well, don't tell Dave I'm planning to do the same, okay?
Okay. Dave, don't listen to us.
Not that I would get in the Scottish team, but you never know.
Well, I never thought I'd end up on any kind of international team myself, but apparently strange things happen. See how it goes.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is a sore subject.
I never thought I'd have a passport for crying out loud.
So Paul, I maybe this is something I shouldn't ask you, but I know at some point Warlord was going to have a team. Was that like kind of if we had room for an odd, or we were odd numbers, they were going to be the team, and because we were even, they had to drop out?
Okay. Well, speaking with my World Team Championship hat on, it was always our intention to invite Warlord along as a team.
Okay.
In fact, we invited them to the first one as well, but they were unable to come, bearing in mind Warlord are away at conventions every weekend. Sometimes they'll have 3 trucks going out to 3 conventions. And we were hoping to have them along this time, but it turns out that they've got on too much that weekend and had to pull out. However, I mean, Warlord have been sending more staff out to competitions in the UK. And last year I got to some competitions in the United States as well as the ones I participated in Europe and the UK. So Warlord's trying to get people out there.
So that's not just because they're just not good at running demo games and thereby losing, so people buy into the game. That's not the reason.
I'm sure it's not the reason.
Because everyone loves to win a demo game, and that gets them into the game, right?
Exactly. Well, Warlord, we're going to be the demo team, shall we say?
Just come off all of them lose. I was hoping Alessio was going to show up, and we were going to have to play against Alessio, and that would have been something to write home about for sure.
Change the rules on the spot so he wins because he can write.
If you get to play against Alessio, it is an experience, and he's a lovely guy, Alessio. And no, he doesn't always know his own rules.
He's probably got a lot of rules in his head, to be fair. Like, I'm sure he
has got one or two, and he's already working on the next set.
Right.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody's looking for clues.
Yeah, exactly. We'd put Pat in his Gurkha list. Oh, shit. I can't say that. Never mind.
Nobody's listening.
Cut that.
That's for Bug Eater.
Yeah.
It's for Bug Eater, yeah.
We'll cut that out because all I wanted to say was, yep. Sorry. That was me not thinking.
No one was going to notice till you drew attention to it.
Well said, that man.
Yeah, probably true. But I just realized I'm going to catch myself now before I start blabbing on about our lists.
Well, this won't land until after the lists have been formally submitted. So,
then it wouldn't matter.
Fun. And again, it's the 5th list that we're putting together and prepping as well. We're just not sure who will be playing that in case we need to pull it out. So.
Like I said, yep, I've got my WTC list locked down, and I'm looking forward to the Bug Eater stuff. And yeah, Gurkles will be a Bug Eater. Sorry, guys. I'll also be doing Stewart spam, so have fun with that.
So I just, I've heard. I mean, Cast Ice just went and pulled out all of the upgraded, the new Stalingrad book. And so they went through the lists and some of the scenarios, and the Stalingrad theater selector for Pavlov's House, the no one step back, looks pretty interesting. So I'll probably be doing that at Bug Eater. So just heads up. An artillery observer that can drop 2 artilleries in one go. So that might be nice.
I haven't read this book yet. Oh my gosh.
Bad man.
Puts the naval observer into perspective, doesn't he?
But I have to deal with Gurkha and Stewart spam, so there's that out there.
Jesus,
won't have to play till the last game, Dale.
All right. Well, I'm disappointed that Warlord sounds like they're not gonna be able to make it this year, but they have been really good with supporting our events and stuff like that. So that's a nice.
They have, and they're a big support to our event as well. To be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, so
come on, guys,
put
me through it.
Well, all right.
All right.
I'm trying to. Let's see. How do we want to jump into this? Actually, before we dive into the specific questions, and we'll just frame this in relation to last year. So this year will be the first year that the U.S. is is going to participate.
Yeah, and we've got 2 teams.
Yeah, we're sending 2 teams down, and fortunately, 3 of us are going to be on one of those teams. So,
based on the rules packet for the penalties and stuff, it could be the last year because we're a bunch of never mind.
Well, we'll save that to the end.
Stop throwing your dice.
Now, how did so it's pool play?
For the first day, it's pool play. Yeah.
Okay, so the first day is pool play, and then is it Swiss pairings on the second day?
We are going to go with Swiss pairings on the second day. Yeah.
Okay.
It's based on first day's rankings, how
Yeah.
you were paired up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
It's like a soccer tournament.
let's say we had gone last year. We rocked up on that first day in pool play. We get matched up with our opponents, another team. So how did the matchups work last year in regards to how did the teams determine which player is playing which player?
That's up to the captains, and that's one of the 2 hours to complete, and then there'll be a gap of at least half an hour between games. Because the captains have to meet and then they do their matchup. The same way, I don't know if you know how they do them at the ETC. It's a very similar idea.
So how do they do it at the ETC for the folks who might not be
Sorry,
familiar?
yeah, of course. So you've got, basically each of the captains has got 4 lists. The captains will toss, and whoever, for example, wins the toss will put down 2 lists from his country. The other captain will choose one of those lists and pitch one of his team members against it.
All right.
Then that captain puts down 2 lists, and it goes vice versa. We will be putting out instructions very shortly because it sounds complicated, but it works very simply in practice.
Okay. So
are you any wiser? Nope.
Is that like I throw my stone and I skip 1, 2, 3, 4, doubles on 6, 7, pick up my stone, turn around and hop back? Is that what that sounds like?
I think you picked it up. I must have explained it very well. There's a team element to this. So it might be that the captains see that one of those lists is a very strong list, so he's going to put what he thinks is his weakest list against it.
Mm-hmm.
So he may be throwing one of his team members under the wheels of the truck, as it were.
Sure.
So that he can possibly win the other 3. So there is a team element involved for the captains.
Yep. I could definitely see how that would potentially be a viable strategy in that regard.
So here's a follow-up question. So all teams are submitting 5 lists, playing 4.
Yes.
And will we know which 4 are being played day of? Because I know we don't know about. So day of, we'll know that England is not playing Polish Lancers.
Yeah.
And
that'll happen.
Lists are real.
Yeah. So on the morning of, each country has to tell us, team captain has to tell us which 4 lists are being played. The 5th list is then discarded for the entire competition, and those will be the 4 lists that will be played, and they're all played by the same person.
Makes sense.
So
that stunned you into silence.
I'm just thinking about. Well, see now because I've turned the competitive part of my brain on. I'm just running through the scenarios and thinking about in any event. I'll save that for later. Now, the 2-hour time limit, is that 2 hours from when the captains get together to set the matchups, or is that 2 hours once the matchups have been established?
That's 2 hours from when the matchups have been established, and you're at your tables. We start the timer. And at the end of the 2 hours, whichever dice is being played is the last dice.
Okay.
There's no more dice out of the bag.
All right.
So the 2 hour mark, you'll drop the big race flag and wave it around and everybody goes.
Exactly. And that's because we have to get the results done really quickly so that we know which team you're playing next. When we're doing the Swiss, we need to know who you're playing next so the captains get together because they have potentially a bit of discussion. Last year, most of them did it very quickly, actually. But we give you, a good half hour at least to get that done.
Okay.
It's kind of like our SNAFU scenario where we get the groups together and we talk about what's going on in the scenario. And then everyone goes and picks the tables they play on. And then once they get there, if they get there early, they have an extra, possibly 15, 20 minutes, depending on how quick the captain's meeting went, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. So going into last year, once you've received all of the lists and things like that, I remember watching kind of the podcast and going through some of the lists and getting those initial thoughts. So being on this end of the tournament now, What was the format that for Army selection that you had last year?
For Army selection, it was, I think you could use campaign lists, but it was fact this year that Warlord were constraining it to Army books for competitive play.
Yep, I remember.
And that made sense. Yeah, that made sense to us, so we followed in line because we like to play rules as written. Also means that it's going to be easier for us to check lists.
Sure.
Last year, we made the vital error of allowing people to submit Easy Army and Battle Scribe and all sorts, none of which are actually correct. And you also couldn't see the notes.
Selectors out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this year, you guys, as you guys already know, are going to be effectively just writing down your list from the Army book to make it much easier for us to check them and get them back out, and to cause less questions coming from other teams because, maybe somebody's written in pencil that they're whatever.
Mm-hmm. So are you concerned at all that we may not get as big a variety of lists this year? I mean, is that even a thought, or is it more along the lines of just as you say, here's rules as written
in Netherlands.
We might find that the armies are more not balanced but closer together, or
potentially the answer is yes, but I don't think so, because we are looking at some of the best players in the world, potentially. You guys accepted, of course.
And except us, right?
And you
the
guys
best
all
players
love
in the
making
world
lists.
and the SNAFU.
The world, yeah. You guys all love making lists, so I think there's going to be enough variety in there, to be honest. There's things that we are expecting to see this year, but last year there was things we expected to see and we didn't, so, we'll see. One of the things that we did, I'm sure we wouldn't be in the first competition that did it, but we released the lists to the other teams before the event. I think Russell Wright's team event in the UK at the start of the year did that as well. They let the other teams see the lists. So, that was a first for us as well, and that caused one or two challenges along the road. So we tried to streamline that, and you guys will be able to see you'll be able to see the other 5 lists from each of the countries and be able to discuss them and think if you come up against them, beat them.
Yeah,
other than paying them a bribe, of course.
Yeah, I feel like that's actually going to be an important part of preparation on our part. It's just,
beer. Pay your way with beer.
It's just seeing, that's what we should have done.
it just, obviously we're here in the United States and we have our own, pardon the term, but we use it all the time, the meta that we have here.
Yeah. And you have different metas in different parts of the States,
Normal lists around here are anywhere between 9 and 12 or 13 order dice. That's just normal play for us. And you see medium tanks all the time. And from some of the podcasts I hear from Europe, Australia, and there's the other 2 I hear. Europe's Ireland as much as anything. But that ends up being closer to 12 to 14, 12 to 16, sometimes the ridiculous numbers of 22. How do you play 22 order dice out in 2 hours, for crying out loud?
Don't.
Well, you do. Most of the guys that are playing those lists know how to play them.
Sure.
And last year we didn't actually have a trouble with finishing games. I would have said that 70% of the games were finished or, on turn 5 or 6.
So even with every scenario in the book that is completed on turn 6 or on a 4+ goes to a 7th turn.
Yeah. Yeah. We expected a lot less finished games than we got. So that was good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Don't play very fast.
Yeah.
Apparently we talk too much.
But the guys that are playing them, usually you're experienced, you've practiced with them, So I suppose when you look at it from that point of view, we'd expect you to be finishing games. And
So more than
usually,
5
if you're
games
not,
with the list?
you've got a referee looking just to check there's nothing amiss.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do our best to make sure we're finishing games. So
Yeah. I mean, it's not always easy, but, if we see somebody consistently...
So you guys don't do beer shots in between every round when you go off to the bar, have your shot, and then have a drink, and come back?
only the
You
referees.
don't do that? Oh, okay.
Only the
Only for
referees.
referees. I'm just going to clarify something.
can I be a referee?
Right? Well, after the first round, we can all be. No, Dale wants to be a referee. I was going to say, just to clarify, this isn't like a metric English thing, right? It's still 2 hours. It's still the same time it is here in America, right?
It's exactly the same. It just happens at a different part of the day, but hey.
Okay, all right. Just shifted. Yeah.
The same between metric and imperial. So.
Right. Doesn't change at all, period. Okay. Just making sure, because I'm 2 hours is short, but we will work on that.
So 22 Canadian order dice, does that translate down to just 14 actual American order dice? Or
But, yes, it does probably, in fact, in this game.
As far as order dice go, last year we expected the average number of order dice to be around about 15, 16, but it actually turned out to be 11, 12.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So that's less than I anticipated.
Yeah, so it was about the same as you guys. I mean, 1,000. The reason we make it 1,000 points as well, because we need to get the games finished so the captains can do their thing.
Sure. So looking back from last year, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot, I don't know. Based off of, I don't know if you did any handicapping of the lists and the teams, things like that. After you had received the list and kind of gone through them and noted, well, this is unusual, or this is interesting, or I like this list, or felt it was really strong. I mean, clearly, you can't handicap the player that's playing him or the matchups and how they fall out. Were there any lists that you were surprised by, or any teams in particular that you really feel like they really plugged in and meted it exactly how they should have? Or
it's different. I think it just reinforced my opinion that it's not so much about the list, it's about the player. Okay. Better players tend to do well almost, I wouldn't say no matter what they take, but, you could give them somebody else's list competition and they'll do well. Tends to be it. There was people that turned up with, I forgot the name of the tanks, the German flamethrower tanks in an armoured platoon, because we had armoured platoons last year. Flampanzers. And, they didn't necessarily win all their games. And there were other guys turned up with an awful lot of man packs. They didn't win all their games,
You can give the worst player the best list, and he still doesn't know what to do with it. So you can also give the best player one of the worst lists, and they will still do very well because they know how to do it. You get that a lot with the point buy system. That's the beauty of bolt action, honestly.
And usually it tends to be knowing the rules
that makes sense.
Inside out helps.
All right. So let's get into this year a little bit. And again, I'm going to caveat this. We're doing our best to not try to pick up any kind of advantage or anything like that.
As if I would let you have one, you dastardly Americans.
If we were looking for advantage, we wouldn't be recording this.
Right. We wouldn't publish this. Well, who says we're going to publish this?
So talk
Why,
to us.
you?
Yeah, who says that this recording is actually, there's always a chance that's the case. So the scenarios. So, obviously you're selecting from the book scenarios, and, there are 12 in the book, and we have 6 games. And based off the information that's been provided, you've reduced the 12 to 8. Is there any rhyme or reason as to the 4 that you elected to remove from circulation or being able to be played?
Top secret's crap for competition play.
I think you answered that question for yourself.
There
are 4 scenarios that we felt were less suitable for competition play and are less likely to provide an enjoyable game. Also something that I'm working on with War at the moment anyway, behind the scenes, is trying to come up with 12 competition scenarios that are good for competition.
Okay.
But last year, again, we did the same. We reduced it to 8 and picked from the 8.
Okay, so how soon before the games are played do you know which scenarios are going to be played?
Last year, we told you before the game was going to be played, so in the preceding 15 minutes.
Okay.
But the captains had to know immediately, obviously, to do their matchup. But the captains tend to do their matchups without the rest of the team looking on.
Oh, interesting. I anticipated
Well,
teams might have feedback in that regard. Okay.
The reason for that is that once the teams get in and everybody starts putting their 2 bobs worth in, or 10 cents, or wherever you come from,
I suppose it slows it down.
It slows it down a lot.
Sure. All right. So then,
You're telling me more people slow things down?
Is that
really?
Is that going to be different this year? Have you already selected scenarios, or?
We haven't selected scenarios yet. They'll be selected by random from those 8.
Okay.
Sounds pre-recorded. We are not alone.
All right. Do you guys have any other questions about scenarios or anything in that regard before we move on?
We are also planning this year to do a captain's pack, which will have notes on the scenarios, so we get rid of most of the usual questions that you sometimes get, about forward deployment, outflanking and all that stuff. So we should make it easier and quicker for you guys to get into your games.
Great. Yeah, that sounds good. I was collecting a number of questions to ask for clarification once lists had been submitted. So
we have been inundating Dale with questions about everything that's going on around us.
That's an understatement,
right?
What quantifies what actually is hidden deployment, and what does it really mean? Some of the scenarios even say, or don't say, that just because they're for deployment doesn't mean they're not part of the actual deployment. And what exactly is the deployment zone? And if 4 deployment zones 4 deployers are out of that zone.
That's just going to read all of his questions right now. Yeah.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
It sounds like we're going to get clarification. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So now the terrain situation. So
I thought I had a list.
In our games, as we've been practicing and things like that, the sense I get is that it's possible that we play with significantly more terrain than is common. And so can you give us a sense of the terrain situation from last year?
Last year we had difficulties with terrain. We sent it by courier, and several of our boxes of terrain didn't turn up. However, the feedback from the players was that in spite of a lack of those boxes, all the tables were good to play. And this year we're taking boxes across ourselves because it's Ireland. So we'll have everything there, and your tables will be fairly full.
Okay.
You're not going to have huge open spaces
on your island yourself.
Sorry, what was that?
You have none of the terrain on your island yourself. Sorry, we haven't said island forever.
Sorry, island and Aloha. For all those who are just joining.
Ireland and island are very close to the same, right?
That was like 7 of them.
Island.
You guys, quick
people will be getting drunk now, Pat. You realize
everyone's getting hammered.
Whatever they're drinking.
Forget this part and want to re-listen to it. I'm sure they'll download and help us.
I suspect that's going to help them get through this.
So your tables, expect to have fairly full tables. There will be lots of blocking line of sight.
All right. So obviously 12 teams, players per team. So you're looking at,
48.
That many tables. So 48 matchups, so 24. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So each grouping is the expectation that when one team is facing the other and they're playing on their 4 tables, all 4 tables are identical?
They are, yeah.
Okay. So you'll need 6 versions or 6 different tables, each replicated.
So
4 times.
we've got 6 sets of 4 tables.
Okay.
So 6 sets of 4 identical tables.
So is it possible, and I'm asking this on behalf of not just our team, but every other team, to, once lists have been submitted, to get pictures of those table layouts?
It may be. We're doing the finishing touches on some of them, but we're hoping to actually put the plans of the tables in the players pack.
Okay.
It all depends how much time we've got. But I'll certainly take that back to the guys and see if we can do something along those lines. I think 2 of the tables are still being finalised at the moment. Mm-hmm. Really just the details, hedges, that type of thing.
Right.
We've got a load of hedges to make. But I'll take that back and give that feedback to the team. I know that we were intending to put maps of the tables in.
Yeah, I think that would actually
to
be
the players pack.
And it actually go a long way towards helping games finish on time too. Because if you're able to get a little bit of familiarity with the various tables you could potentially be playing on, that would help.
We're planning with those plans as well to tell you what terrain is. So we cut down on the terrain questions.
That's excellent.
That's fabulous too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that makes it so much easier when somebody's not that anyone would game the system, but at least you guys have an agreement. Walking up to the table, you know what everything is. It's so handy.
Yeah, and chances are, if you've read the layout and it says dense terrain, you probably looked in the book to remind yourself exactly what that means.
No, it's just that if I say something, it'll be wrong, and then I'll get slated for it.
Yeah. We don't. Good, you guys are doing great.
I mean, I think that's exciting, especially having not had the ideal terrain situation because of what happened with the Courier last year. The players still said that the tables played fine, which is
I mean, I thought some of them were bare, but all the players certainly that fed back to us, and we do ask the captains for feedback afterwards. They all didn't seem to have a problem with the tables at all.
Yeah, and logistically, I can imagine that it's not an easy task, like you said, to just have to put the whole thing together, especially if you're moving that far. It's
not, and we lost a lot of it to damages on the way back with the Courier as well, so we were not happy with the Courier.
Oof. Used the same Courier for all of this?
It came back by a different Courier on the way back, and it still got damaged.
Don't trust the guy who lost the stuff.
We didn't.
Yeah, you might have bought the round trip ticket though.
Right?
Oh man, that's
right.
Yeah, that's really sad that happened, and hopefully, I mean, again, it's just another learning opportunity for you guys, and hopefully it wasn't too costly.
It is, but the transport of the terrain is actually quite a big cost to us. So we've only just actually tied that down in the last couple of weeks. So it's been one of the bigger headaches that we're trying to sort out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where is it, just out of curiosity, where is the train coming from? Like England?
Yeah, the train's part of it's coming down from Scotland this weekend to meet up with Dave in England, and Dave is going to bring some of it across, and another car from Scotland is going to bring some of it across.
Okay, so they're ferrying it?
Yeah, they'll come across on the ferry.
Thanks for not shipping it from your island.
No, it's not coming from Bermuda, mate. We just want to say island again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Besides, the cost would be like instead of $90, it'd be like it'd be $270 if it's coming from your island at least.
Oh yeah.
All right.
As I say,
to it. I'm really excited to play this tournament. It'd be a lot of fun, and just be in Ireland for Christ's sake.
Right? Who would have thought we were going to Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason we do it, is to bring guys from all over the world together and to have an awful lot of fun, which is what we did last year. And certainly Europe, we found a lot of guys have travelled across from Europe that have made friends at the WTC. The Germans came across and the Danish came across to the Scottish Nationals. And then for the GT, which I wasn't organising. The GT, we had the French, the Spanish, the Germans, and I'm sure there was lots of others that I'm missing out, came across for that. So, it's really nice to see people travel about.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
hey, just a quick shout out to Pim, who's coming in from the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah, Pim from the Dutch, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He came over here for Operation SNAFU last year. Be happy to see him again. Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
hey, Pim.
So now I'm going to kind of get to one of my, it's not a concern. It's just something that I found curious. Because of your experience playing in both the Europe scene, not just organizing, but competing as well, and then over here in America as well. And just kind of doing a little bit of research to find out what happened last year, what was the player expectation? How did the games go? Things like that. And then just being a part of the captain's chat and things that have happened. We're asking questions and just trying to get a sense of what we can expect. And so I'm trying to provide as much information to the guys on my team as to, what is potentially the best approach and things like this. And there's been a little bit of discussion around fair play. What's appropriate in a game. And the tactic was brought up where, and I don't know if it was used in relation to against a Finnish player.
I'm going to say don't as a weapon. But it seems like not.
It wasn't used last year, but the question was raised, and technically it's not in the book. But
so for the benefit of the podcast and those listening, what I'm referring to is the picture as it was displayed was multiple units, I think probably 3, lined up on a long table edge, covering the entire table edge. Each unit was 1 inch apart from the others, but they were within unit coherency. The idea being that there is no room left on the long table edge for your opponent to move in on that table edge because they would be within an inch. And so this was brought up. Is this okay? Is this not okay? And so there was some debate as to whether or not that was all right. And I'm not going to get into the discussion per se, but what caught me off guard was, to me, and again, I've got the competitive side of my brain turned on, and I'm looking at this from an analytical standpoint. This is a perfectly viable tactic if you're trying to deny deployment opportunities to your opponent. I don't think it's a smart move tactically, but it's certainly not illegal and it's not cheating, and so therefore should be allowed. And so because of the discussion around that, I felt like I was a little bit confused as to, is there a difference between not fair play and cheating? And kind of wanted to get your sense on that.
That's okay. If you go to, and as captain, I think I put a post up about it, which you'll see, and we do have a referee pack, which you guys can go and look at. And it's where we have attempted, I'm sure it's not all encompassing, but we've attempted to set out what we expect of players and how it is likely that we will deal with certain situations. So it covers things like slow play, etc., etc., etc. This particular question,
D-bag clause.
It is basically. But people were bringing it up, and it was a case of, I know none of you guys are going to do this, but if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And last year, that was the one thing that we added, which isn't in the rule book. And we basically, it was brought up at a captain's meeting. I think this one famously comes from 40K. I'm sure there's other places that can get away with this tactic. It was done at one WTC, ETC competition a number of years ago.
I'm really shocked.
I know. Where, I can't remember what the armies were, but a guy blocked off both sides and stopped a guy coming on before the first turn was played. And by the rule book, the guy that was blocking won because it's not against the rules. However, it's not in the spirit of the game, is what I would say. And we're trying to make these games fun for everybody. And it's good that the captains bring up potential hotspots, let's say, and that we say, well, in these situations, this is how we'll deal with it. Go away and tell your teams. So if you go to the website, and again, anybody can see it, I'm sure it's not all-encompassing or perfectly written, but there is a guideline there for the referees and for all you guys to tell you how we'll deal with those situations. I think slow play is possibly more applicable, to be honest. But
So, Paul, what you're telling me is that you want a game to be fun.
It's got to be fun,
Somebody-
otherwise none of you guys will play it. But people get their fun in different ways.
That's the trick.
So.
That is, see, some people derive fun from screwing their opponent's plan up, right? Like
They can do, but you can do it with a smile.
No, Rick, I really only do that with when I play you. So, right.
I know. I'm looking forward to the next time we play, Pat.
It'll be a couple weeks.
And at the captain's meeting beforehand, if for the guys that can get there, we will go over it. We will go over what the referee's role is and what to expect from the referees, and we'll tell you what we expect from you guys.
All right. I think, yeah, I mean, the tactic as it's shown, I don't think anyone on our team actually, I mean, they saw that and they're like, okay, they knew exactly how to deal with it.
Or like, why would you waste that many troops in your back line? Why don't you move forward? Right?
So, but again, I was slightly concerned, it's
to me, it was more concerning that it was brought up, to be honest, but
okay.
Yeah, that's usually a sign that someone was thinking about it, but
Right.
I have heard of it being done in bolt action, and it's easier just to knock it on the head and say, well, it ain't gonna.
Let them know they can play Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'd like everybody to play bolt action. It's just, I want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what to expect, so that, because if we walk up and we're on opposite sides of the table, and both know we want the same thing out of the game, then we can just play it and tell a great story. And that's kind of, I just want to make sure that our team is prepared and understands exactly what that's going to mean walking in.
You are going to come across some fairly intense players, and you will come across some guys who have turned up because they could afford the ticket and they're going to have fun. But even the intense players can do it in a friendly way.
Yeah.
Is what we found last year.
Okay. That sounds great to me. So I'm excited.
Oh, I had a question that I don't know if maybe it was asked before I got here. Why Cork this year? What was the deciding factor for Cork this year? I don't know otherwise, but
that's all right. We were trying to set it up in Spain this year, and for various reasons that didn't come about, and we got down to a situation where we need to get somewhere chosen fast. Dave knows Cork. He has contacts in Cork. We found a hotel that just came into our budget. You may not appreciate it, but the €60 or whatever it is we cut things very fine. Yeah, so it was finding a hotel that comes in at the budget, will supply us with all the various things we need, and still comes in at what we think is the most cost-effective price for you guys. As you will be aware, we don't make a profit at doing this. And that was the reason for Cork. It just so happened it was easy for us to get to, we could get a hotel in the right place. It was fairly cheap for everybody to get to, apart from you guys. I'm a Paul there. And, that was the way it was. We will look at trying to go to Spain again, possibly, but we have one or two things in the pipeline which may or may not come off, which we need to decide about. We're hoping to be able to tell you more once you get to Cork, and we should be able to give you an idea of the following year.
I can tell you two things. First of all, before 3 months ago, I didn't know that Cork was a place.
You thought it was a thing.
I am that inept. Yes. And I understand that piggybacking with other other hotels and getting where their costs are, and the timing on that is a thing too. Because we gotta have the same thing with our Operation SNAFU tournament. Is that we're hotels at the week before Thanksgiving, so it's affordable, and nobody else wants it, and so they rent it out to us, and so that's I totally get that. But it's really nice, honestly, that you guys have bookings for the hotel that you can stay on site and just show up in your pajamas if you want to, if that's a thing for you.
I will tell you now, worse has happened. But we're not going into that here.
Yeah, we'll save that one.
I'll tell you when we're off air.
Yeah, totally.
Not.
Paul, once
people.
Once we get past the deadline for submitting lists, how soon or how much prior to the actual tournament do you think the list may be made available? Because I'm sure the greater community at large might be very interested in that.
Yeah, they do, and they were last year. We need to get the lists checked, and that'll go through. It just doesn't go through one person. It's probably this year it will go through 3 separate people, and we'll still make mistakes. But anyway, so it'll go through 3 people. I think it's probably going to take us probably 2 weeks, and then we'll release the list to the general population.
All right.
Cool.
That's what we're aiming for. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's what we're
Sure.
And maybe we have you on before that. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to come back and talk lists with you. The last year, if you want to have a look at it, ask him. Russell Wright, who was Welsh captain last year, actually did a huge, big spreadsheet thing of all the armies and all that, what units were in them. And your pals at the Juggernaut podcast, I'm pretty sure, did a podcast on it as well using his figures.
Okay.
It told you like how many people took machine guns, how many,
cool.
how many tanks and all that, and it went through how many dice were in.
Oh,
sorry, that's an aside. I've gone off on a tangent, guys. My apologies.
No worries.
Oh, you're good.
You fit right in.
I noted.
I'm trying to distract you. It's a sneaky tactic.
Right. If we keep asking questions, you'll eventually answer something.
Never
right.
end.
You'll not supposed to let us know.
I mean,
Forget he's 2 hours later than us.
Yeah, that's as much as I have in regards to. I really don't want to push.
No.
Because you can learn a lot about someone by the questions they ask. So I'm not tipping my hand in any regard.
I like it.
You can. Good point. Asking about certain units and whether or not they're allowed is definitely not a question to ask out loud.
Who wins? Who wins, Paul? Tell us who wins.
Who wins?
The best players win.
No.
The Polish one last
Rick
year.
and I are out.
Polish team?
No, the Spanish one last year. Much to everybody's surprise.
Okay. Spanish, and then were the Polish and the German in the top 3? Was that the?
I think the Germans were. I honestly can't remember now. That's terrible. I apologise to you.
Yeah, no,
I think it was the Polish, but I would need to check on that.
The way Dave did the pools is he put the top 3 in each of the pools. So the top 3 were Spain, Poland, and Germany in whatever order. I don't know. Spain obviously won it. So Poland and Germany were the other 2 and 3. I don't know which one was which. But.
Okay. Well, I don't know if their teams have changed, but my expectation would be that they've got to be the early favorites, I guess. So I don't know. I guess I'm looking for. I think we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
You will do. You'll be surprised how other different ways of doing things. Not seriously, but they'll read a rule slightly different. They'll have, they'll be like, you might be excited about flamethrowers, and they're like, well, you got how do you guys deal with such and such? So it can be it's very interesting to find out all the different views.
Someone who feels he knows the rules fairly solid and has interpreted them several times over. I still get, even our club games, I get caught back like, wait, what? Okay, let's double check that. But I think when dealing with different
do that all the time. Yeah, and everybody has different way. I mean, I think, I'm just going to say Aloha Island. Island, island, island.
Oh
That's
boy.
me passing out.
Yep.
Well.
Be going to bed. Do it, Pat. Just do it. Or
All right,
Paul,
guys,
do it.
let's get out of here. This is SNAFU. Over and out.
Good night, guys.
Right?
Beauty. Good night, guys.
Good night, lads. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after. Tomorrow, when the world is free. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see.
Craig and Rick.
No,
No,
it's
Rick's not
Dale
there.
and
Right,
Pat.
I'll do that again. Give me a second.
Craig is he's the recording bot. He's the one that's actually it's just a bot recording us. So it'll be Dale and Pat.
Got the old Pat. Yes, I've got you because you've got a silly thing. Right. Okay.
All right, I'll be right back, guys.
There you go. All right.
All right, we'll take a quick 5 and run to the loo and refresh your island drink.
Island. Aloha.
No one will hear this, but you can drink again if you want, Paul.
Nonsense. I'll put that at the end.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect.